intro here and say hello and welcome to the Holy Hour podcast, the bi-weekly all cure podcast. And boy, do we have a very special episode for you guys tonight. I'm joined by Chaz and our very special guest, Christian Jacobs. Hello, man. Welcome.
Hi. Hey, guys.
Hour.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Holy Hour.
Yeah, This is where we come to praise the Cure every other week, and it's been quite a ride already. So
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear everything and to meditate and think and feel.
That'll be the second hour. We'll do that the second hour. Now, Gavin, I know that we're one of the top 10 podcasts in possible countries. I'm not sure, but this is the first guest we've had that has his own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I think so.
So
big deal. So
wait,
we are impressed.
Yeah. You didn't tell me
that. Usually we just get whoever we harass out on the Cure tours there that's been to more shows than us and such like that, So it's, thank you so much for anybody out there says this guy looks super familiar. Who is this guy? Wasn't even sure if I should full on introduce you as MC Bat Commander of the Aquabats.
That is true. Yes. Yeah. That's my alter ego. Don't tell anyone what I really look like.
We'll keep it good. Luckily, our 6 listeners are pretty. But I figured we could spend the whole damn episode really just going through your awesome resume and all the projects you've been involved in. And
the Aquabats never really broke out of the box and became an international phenomenon, and we by design we've been keeping it underground, so this is exactly where we with you guys and your 6 listeners, and we're just keeping it real, it real underground,
Nice.
We don't want all those mainstream weirdos liking us. We just want the real weirdos.
It gets complicated quick. We
don't want all those fake Walmart punkers to come after us with their money and their credit cards. No way.
Soon as Hot Topic starts selling Aquabats and Holy Hour T-shirts, we'll know that we're in trouble.
I can't badmouth Hot Topic too bad. I think we sold some shirts through Hot Topic.
I'm pretty sure you do. Yeah.
There was a time.
So does the Cure. Hey, look at that.
Hot Topic was the enemy.
Yeah. Now it's all like, well, I'll just see if they have any Cure shirts, and then I'll get out real quick.
Exactly. Hey, look at all these Naruto shirts. I think I might have to get one of these.
Back in 97, 96, it was the only place I could go to get anything cool was Hot Topic at the Woodbridge Mall in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think for people in Southern California, we obviously we were spoiled with all kinds of different music shops and record stores, and so Hot Topic was clearly so stinky for Southern California people, but obviously for a lot of kids, alternative music and punk rock and things like that was kind of like their only place to get it. Yeah. So you can't really knock it too hard.
I remember buying T-shirts at the mall kiosks back then. You go to the kiosk and they have every popular punk or metal band at the time, and totally. They're in Hot Topic is where I got my wardrobe to start off. So
hey, whatever it takes, right? There's a couple people I follow on Instagram that are, they're incredible record collectors, and they have all kinds of these punk rock records. And one of the guys I follow is from New Jersey, and every week he's like, look at this haul I got, and it's just all these amazing records, The Cure and
Artifacts or whatever his name is.
Yes, Brian.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I was texting with him, and he's like, I didn't really start collecting punk rock stuff until the late 80s, early 90s. And I was like, what? Because all the stuff he has, even back in the day, was hard to find. It was really hard to find a lot of that stuff. So kudos to him. But yeah, I follow Ancient Artifacts, you know, and I bought a few records off of him too. He always comes up with these insane hauls. In fact, he just had a really big haul with there's a bunch of Cure stuff in it too, and Cure 7.
That's the one that I bought.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I bought that one. Yeah, I bought that whole collection from him. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And that was good. Wasn't there like there was a oh man, I can't remember everything that there, but there was a Walk 7-inch, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
Just sold, and was it the Close to Me single? And there was a bunch of good stuff.
Yeah. In
or
between
was
days,
it,
like a Japanese pressing, and there was I'm a Cult Hero 7-inch.
Yeah. What's the 7-inch with all the mouths on it? Which one is that one?
Jumping Someone Else's Train.
Jumping Someone Else's Train. Yeah. That was. Did you get that one too?
Yeah.
I think I already have it, but I was like, oh, I gotta get that. So I'm at that.
I feel
stage.
terrible now.
No, I'm at that stage in my life where I'm like, oh, I've been impulse shopping for so long that sometimes I buy something and I already have that. What am I doing? And then you can't really take it back, and then you have doubles and triples and things, and like, you know, collecting is crazy because I don't know. It never ends. There's no end.
Yeah,
there's no like. I finally have it all. There's just no way, you know. So
we were just talking about that on a little mini episode we did where, you know, Chaz is, you know, in it to win it kind of level where I'm kind of like, it's hard to just get in that point, you know, like once you've got like a good collection going, it's all like, all right, you can, you know, splurge on those rarities and stuff, but it's all like, it's weirder if you don't really have that started yet, and then you buy the one really expensive 7-inch, you know, it's like it's just kind of out of place. There's this one little rare thing, you know.
Totally. Everything else is pretty easy to get, and then there's a couple of jewels.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where
I have my list of white whales that I'll never be able to obtain, but you know, it is what it is.
You never know. I think the trick, and you guys kind of, by honing in on the Cure, I think that's the trick with collecting, is if you stick to one or two things that you collect, then you'll probably get a really amazing collection.
Yeah.
But when you kind of shotgun collect, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And that's been me for a long time. So whether it was punk records or magazines or movie posters or blacklight posters or whatever, like I have to have that. I have to have that. I have to have that. And then just, I can't afford it. So, you know, but I have been able to get a few cool things over the years, and some of that stuff I got back in the day too. Just wasn't even thinking, just not even thinking about collecting, but just buying records. I'm surprised even any of my records survived from the 80s. But yeah, I was able to keep a good grip of them, but some of them got lost along the way, and I had to replace them. With the pandemic this last year, collecting vinyl wasn't really a part of my collecting thing. I was really into Japanese toys I still am, but I'm at that level with the Japanese toys where it's like I can't really go any higher unless I'm like, you know, Bill Gates or something, where it's like there's no justifying buying $1,000 toys, you know. There's just not. Especially when you have kids, you know, and your kids are like,
oh, is that Dad, for me? It's like, no.
So it's fun to look at them and think about it, but I just, you know, I'm kind of, but going back to this last year, kind of being stuck at home and listening to music and going through my old records and opening those gatefolds and just being like, man, you know, vinyl is cool. Like, and I guess it's weird because people have been collecting vinyl and been really into collecting vinyl for a long, long time. And even back in the 80s, people were collecting records and things like that when records were the only thing you could collect. But, you know, cassettes were also huge in the 80s, and most young people, being young in the 80s, we listen to cassettes. You know, we buy cassettes, or we go to our friend's house that had a record player, and we would record, you know, we'd tape their records and other people's records onto cassettes and just rock our Walkmans or listen in the car or our little boom boxes, you know. So I didn't have a ton of vinyl back in the 80s, but that's been something this last year I've been really kind of dipping back into and looking at and thinking like, oh man, that'd be cool to have, Ancient Artifacts or all those guys on Instagram, vinyl collectors and anyway, so vinyl's cool. Obviously, but
sounds cool. But
it's weird to think that you can pick any song you want at any time on your phone or on like Spotify or Apple Music, but you still want to collect vinyl. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird. It's kind of
that weight
problem.
in that blown up artwork, and it's something physical that you can hold on to that it just has so much power behind it than like an MP3. But I do love the accessibility. It's great, but like there's nothing compares to like picking up that record and like getting that rush through your fingers and everything. It's great. I love it.
Having things that are tangible, you can feel the energy coming from it.
Yeah.
And so like when you have something like a Cure record or a 7-inch, it just feels like you're owning a piece of that band in a way. You're like you've got a piece of it, and it's like this magical. The Cure is obviously a magical band. They're very magic, and having one of their records, it's like having a piece of that magic. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you do grab the old originals, it is more like got that artifact feel to it too. Like this was one from, that time frame and stuff. And it just kind of like how many people have listened to this, and you just kind of can go down that path too. Also makes it a lot of fun. So.
Right. Or like, just thinking about like, anyway, just you can feel it in the paper and just the way it was printed out. It just feels like another time. Like it does feel like they're kind of like relics these days, like even the materials they used and the ink they used it's just different now. So things don't feel like they're made to last like they were in the past, things nowadays feel very disposable. And so it's kind of like vinyl music is the last kind of bastion of artifacts from a civilization that has now gone digital and is now like once they pull the plug, it's all gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll be out there with our crank machines still being able to play our music. So and MP3s and
on my cloud, but I don't know where my cloud is. I can't find my cloud. So.
Yeah, what's the cloud?
I know where
there's that movie. I don't know why I thought of this, but there's that movie with Tom Cruise and it's called like Oblivion or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the one
Morgan
where he's
Freeman?
like, yes. And but he has this like secret place out in the woods where it's like a little cabin and there's a record player and he plays music, but then he patrols this zone right in this dystopian future, and he's found this place where this is actual cabin in nature, and there's stuff from the past there in the cabin, and it kind of sparks his memory of the past world. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I've seen that in a couple of
I kind of feel like
movies
we're
too.
more and more we're heading to that, like where he's in his future world, like pod or whatever, and he can have whatever food or listen to whatever music he wants, but there's just something missing. And that's that like real, tangible stuff that was made by humans and not robots kind of a thing. That anyway, I don't know why this has to do with the Cure, but it's definitely fun to talk about.
It all connects, man. It all connects. Well,
you guys just
we'll
jump
come
in
full
and
circle
transition
eventually.
me anytime you want.
No worries.
Just get me out of there.
I love the stream of thoughts. They always connect somewhere or another. But I mean, I guess going back to the olden days there, where did the Cure start with you? Were they a band that you caught on to fairly?
So yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, and in LA we had, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, but we had KROQ, K Rock,
Yeah.
And K Rock Rodney Bingenheimer had a show on K-Rock, and Richard Blade, and all these people that brought new music into LA, and I think probably into most of the Western United States. New music, like what became alternative music, came in through K-Rock in the beginning. And so in the late 70s, early 80s, I could be driving down the street, and I drive through Hollywood, and we drive past the Starwood, and we'd see people with orange hair and mohawks and spikes, and be like, "Ooh, that's cool." And then you'd hear about K-Rock from kids at school. And so just from an early age, like 10, 11-ish, we started listening to K-Rock a lot. And the music was so interesting. It was just, every band was so super different. And some bands were punk, and then some bands were, Brian Eno and Babies on Fire, or like English Beat eventually with like, Mirror in the Bathroom, and like all these weird, they played all kinds of different music. Man. And it was so fascinating. Anyway, long story short, so that's kind of my first exposure to The Cure was through K-Rock. And I think it was Boys Don't Cry, but I could be wrong. I definitely remember The Cure being in that mix. Yeah. And then MTV was something that was also something that kids talked about, but only kind of like the rich kids had MTV because of cable and having cable. And that's kind of started popping up in the early 80s, but early 80s, like 81, 82, there was a show in LA called MV3. So M as in macho, and then V as in video, Music Video 3. And one of the hosts of the show was Richard Blade, who was a DJ on KROQ as well. And so being a young kid and listening to K-Rock, and Richard Blade has his own show, and they're gonna play music videos. So they played, it was kind of like an American Bandstand where people would dance, but in front of this giant green screen. And then on the green screen, they would composite music videos and popular music videos from the day. So it was like punk and new wave. It was Ramones and B-52s and Oingo Boingo and Devo, and any bands that had a video, they would play. And then they would pull out of the screen, and you would see like kids like dancing in front of the screen. And that was like, this like blew my mind, because it was my first kind of introduction to kind of club culture and kids getting dressed up and just new wave and punk. And even though I'd seen it around, you could like kind of dissect it because you're watching it and picking kids out in fashion, and like, wow, it's, because you're a kid, you're going to baseball and playing with a bunch of other kids. And then all of a sudden you see like this legion of people, and they're all super individualistic and weird and different. And there's goth and ska and, all these different styles. And so, and then The Cure obviously had like, even though they address it in jumping someone else's train, they definitely had like their own look and their own vibe. And kind of with Robert Smith and what he did. And so I think Let's Go to Bed was one of the first videos I saw. And then of course Love Cats. And then that became like a huge hit at our house was Let's Go to Bed. My parents, obviously for obvious reasons, they thought it meant something else. But like Love Cats was a huge hit. And my family, we're all kind of goofy, and we loved Love Cats. I mean, it was like the huge hit at our house. And so we would also take VHS tapes and like tape this show MV3, and you can still see it on YouTube. Like if you type MV3 Richard Blade, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I mean, they also had live performances from bands. So they had Oingo Boingo on the show, they had The Clash. It was crazy. Like, cool. And it was just this small, almost felt like a cable access version of MTV, but it would be like if American Bandstand, but it was programmed by the guys from K-Rock. So Richard Blade was a big influence on it. But yeah, that was kind of like the first Cure awakening was like, I mean, because, you know, Let's Go to Bed and Love Cats are a little more, I guess, commercial. Love Cats probably is one of their most like pop accessible hits. You know? It's definitely in the top 5 of their most poppiest songs that like you wouldn't ever think that this band would be the same band that would sing Lullaby or, you know, Disintegrate, some of these other songs, because it's so upbeat and fun. But I think that was the portal into, you know, The Cure was like, hey, come on in, this is fun. And then pretty soon you're like, you're watching Static on the TV, listening to the record. You know?
We've commented numerous times on this show how it's funny how it always seems like the pop is what hooks everybody, you know, and then and then once you're in there, you're like, ooh, what's this dark era? What is this? And then, you know, you start to get into the heavier stuff, and then some people just get where they turn totally on the pop. You know, it's always like pop versus the dark Cure or whatever. But
right. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely, you know, I'm definitely more on the pop side of The Cure, only, and that's by choice, because I just like, I like how it's still melancholy and yet it's like still poppy. So a couple years later, you know, a couple years after Love Cats and you know, Let's Go to Bed were pretty popular and they're big rotation on the radio. I think I was in 8th grade or no, 7th grade, definitely 7th grade. And Head on the Door came out, and In Between Days was like that song. Even now, just getting the chills, like that song at that time, like I'm in 7th grade, there was this girl that I really, really liked. And she was like this, your wife's song, speaking of your girl. So in 7th grade, there was this girl I super liked. And anyway, as it happens to 7th graders, she was in my grade. And so of course the 9th grade, one of the 9th grade boys like whisked her away and kind of broke my heart or whatever. And then like a lot of the girls in my grade wouldn't even hang out with us anymore because they were all kind of like whisked off by the 8th and 9th graders. And the 7th grade boys were just like, you know, we were just, you know, we couldn't, you know, we had no chance with the girls. We just had no chance. So when In Between Days came on, and I can still remember to this day, like sitting in my room and that song came on the radio, and it just like, it broke my heart. And at the same time, it was like, it has this hope feeling in the song. Like it feels hopeful, but it's also like a sad song, you know? And man, and I was like, from that moment on, I was like, okay, this band is amazing. And that's definitely one of my favorite songs, obviously, from The Cure, is In Between Days. And still now I listen to it and I get the chills, because it's like a happy, sad song. It's like a really happy song that's happy, sad.
Yep.
You know?
Never gets old. You know, it's like never.
I swear, I know, and I could listen to that song 10 times in a row, and I would still want to hear it again. It's like it's one of their greatest songs, and they have so many good songs, but that's definitely one of the songs that it's just like
a perfect example of the ones too, of like that scenario of the, you know, being young, that middle school age or something, and everything turns away, but Robert's there, you know, he's always there to scoop you up. It's gonna be all right, you know. And it's just like
a song for every occasion.
Right. And you kind of automatically feel a little like alienated and like a weirdo, because you're changing, and you're 7th grade, and you're like, we were called scrubs in 7th grade. We were the scrubs, and we were outsiders, and the popular kids made fun of us and threw milk at us. And then even our peers wouldn't hang out with us. And so it was like this kind of awkward time. And then that was the time where it's like, okay, this is my band. Definitely one of my bands, you know? And I think, I'm sure you guys have talked about this on the show, but Trent Reznor in his speech where he inducted the Cure into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like he alluded to that as well, right?
Yeah.
His speech.
Yeah.
Where it was like he felt like a weirdo and an alien, an outsider, and then he heard the Cure and he was like, "These are my people, and this is it." They gave him hope,
Yeah. This was just like,
definitely hit home when Gavin and I were both there, and that hit home, and you could feel it in the crowd. It was just like the speech was very well received. So yeah, it was.
It's emotional. It's emotional, like listening to it, because it's not just about the Cure. It just touches upon this feeling that we all have at some point, that we're lost and we're alone and there's no one out there. But then knowing that the Cure does what they do and the songs they write, it just captures that feeling so well that it gives you hope that it's okay, and it's definitely therapeutic. So I can see why this is the show, the holiness of the Cure, because it's true. You know?
That's one of the things I love about the Cure too, is they're like, even still to this day, I mean, they're Rock and Roll Hall of Fame level band, but for some reason, I think the fans and stuff are so passionate about them, where somehow the Cure is able to convince everyone, kind of feels like they're their local band still somehow, like we know that they play these stadiums and they've been around forever, but everyone takes them so personally and passionately and have all these experiences as a kid growing up with them, that you are defensive about it when people don't like them or something, or you're very protective of them, I guess is a better term, and you feel like they're your band that you grew up with, like that lived down the block, not like this international success. And I think that's a really testament to how awesome they are, that they can make you feel that way, So.
Yeah, I mean, it crosses over and it's international. I mean, that's because that's a feeling that everyone feels. It's a human feeling, of loneliness and loss, and at the same time hope and joy, and they get it so they nail it so well, and spooky weird stuff and weirdness, quirky, and they're great. I mean, obviously that's what we're talking about, but
what was it like hearing those poppy songs and then backtracking to the older like 17 Seconds and Pornography and Faith? What was that like, trying to compare that to like the poppy or happy stuff?
Yeah, so really, I was skating on the surface of the Cure for a long time, and I didn't actually start dipping into it until high school, junior high and high school, and then you always think that the old stuff is better. I always think the old stuff is better, and then you go back and listen to 10:15 on a Saturday night, or Killing an Arab, or you listen to those old songs, and you're like, wow, they're just so stripped down. And even like The Forest is one of my favorite songs of the Cure. Obviously, it's dark and it's weird, but it's still kind of poppy, but it's catchy, but it's just a weird song if you think about it, because it's pretty simple, and it's definitely came out in the time of New Wave did that thing where they would just take simple things and then layer a bunch of simple things on top, and then it becomes this kind of tapestry of simplicity that the Cure was super, super good at that. And so I like going back and listening to all that stuff, and I got into that stuff pretty okay. But there's a bunch of stuff even on Head on the Door that feels like, it just feels like a different band. It just feels like a totally different band. Like the song "The Blood" is so different from right.
Such a great
it's so
song.
Different from In Between Days, and it's on the same record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just it's a weird, or like even The Walk, and that was a song they played on K-Rock a lot too. Dun, 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 dun. And that song is so different from so many other songs on that record. It's like, and that was fun. I think that was a cool thing about New Wave in general, or that time period of music, was it was kind of, it was experimental in the way that bands wanted to make songs all sound different. And then, you know, it goes in cycles where, you know, music comes around and whatever's popular, then bands want to write the same song, or, you know, they want to keep writing the same music over and over again to keep getting hits. But that's what was awesome about The Cure, is it never felt like they were trying to write hits. Like they were just writing interesting music. Like, I mean, think about this, the Caterpillar, like that song is so different. It's so different than The Forest, or even like Boys Don't Cry is a simple, almost like Beatles-y kind of a song. And then you go to the Caterpillar and you're like, what the heck is this? This is crazy. And I'm just trying to think of songs off the top of my head, but really
all those songs work so well live though. That's what's amazing about that band, is that you go see them and they'll play that wide variety of sound.
Yeah,
right.
And everybody's engaged.
It's still cohesive somehow. Where it's like, how are these all fit? But it's somehow does.
Right. And then, you know, and then around that time, because of punk rock was so popular in LA, and then you know, I kind of went backwards, where I got into punk and new wave first, and then I started going backwards, like you alluded to, and listening to the older stuff, and then even going further than that, listening to the Ramones, and going back and listening to Neil Young, and getting into classic rock, Aerosmith and Zeppelin and Hendrix. I got into all that stuff like after new wave. And so when grunge came, or when they call it grunge, but to me it was just kind of an extension of punk. But when like all the sub pop bands started popping up and getting popular, like you know, Sonic Youth and Nirvana and Mudhoney and all those bands, and then of course Dinosaur Jr. Like I was a huge Dinosaur Jr. fan, and then Dinosaur Jr. covered Just Like Heaven, which to me still might be the greatest Cure song of all the songs, because it's so sad and it's so happy at the same time. It's like the apex of all. It's like the ultimate terrible story about losing your girl, and at the same time it's like, it's just like heaven. It's just it's a insanely awesome song. And so Dinosaur Jr. covers Just Like Heaven, and that makes me go back and really listen to Just Like Heaven from The Cure, and realize that The Cure is still nailing it. They're still putting out, and Just Like Heaven wasn't an old song. This was like a new song. Like this came out after Head on the Door. And so it was interesting that these new bands, it's one thing when like a new band or a punk band covers a 20 or 30-year-old song, but Dinosaur Jr. was covering a song that was like 3 years old, 2 years old. It had just come out. And to me, that was like another like sign on the road that said The Cure is the best. Like this band, but I love Dinosaur Jr. They were so heavy and just gnarly guitars, and then they did this really heavy cover of Just Like Heaven, and it just made me go back and listen, and I realized that The Cure's version is so good. It's untouchable. Like you can't touch it. It's so good. It makes you cry and smile at the same time. It's so weird, you know? I mean, what does that?
It's our wedding. My wife and our wedding song. That it was just like, but it's like the most perfect song I can think of, and we've had this debate going on that Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me is held up by Just Like Heaven more than, like, if you take that song off that album, the album isn't as good as if you take like another song off the other album, like another album. I
definitely agree. That song made that whole album. I mean, that's the best song.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But anyway, so The Cure it's one of those bands that's just it keeps doing amazing things. Like there's some songs on the 13th that I thought were great. I mean, obviously there's the Mint Car song that they were playing a lot on the radio, but they're still coming out with great music. And Robert Smith knows how to write songs. You know, he just so good. He's just a genius. You know, I can't say it more than that, really. But so you know, there's a couple bands. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, then I guess you're saying, as your fandom over the years, then do you feel like it's been something you've stuck with, or you've ever diminished over time to come back in and out? And,
I think it's definitely been. It's actually been a build up, because I was never like super rabid Cure fan. I was always a fan, but I was never like, I wasn't as big a fan of the Cure as I am right now. If that makes sense. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the podcast, but just this last couple years, you know, being in a band, there's as a kid, punk rock definitely inspired me to want to be in a band. And so we started some punk bands, and then, you know, bands like The Cure and Devo and what was it? The Pixies. Like, so the bands like the Pixies, like that, the Pixies was probably the band that, and they opened up for The Cure in LA on a big tour. And I went to that tour, and that was the band to me. And The Cure says, the Pixies, we're going to take them on the road. That was one of the things where I really got into the Pixies, and that made me want to be in a band more than any other band, which is weird. But so, but I've always had mad respect for The Cure. But anyway, being in the Aquabats now for 25 years, it happened a couple years ago, but the guitar player, Ian Eaglebones, and we just started talking about The Cure, and we just started getting really into The Cure. And then we did this cruise. It was like a Warped Tour reunion cruise, and there was a bunch of bands on that cruise, like what are some of the bands? Lifestyles of the
Must
Rich
have been some cruise.
What's that band called?
Good Charlotte.
Good Charlotte. There it is.
Okay, yeah.
Those guys had something to do with bringing the bands out, but you know, there's a Good Charlotte, Less Than Jake, Lit, Real Big Fish, like a bunch of kind of like classic Warped Tour bands, and we were invited, and we went on this cruise, and it happened over Halloween, and there was something that the cruise was doing, and they wanted the bands, hey, we're going to do this night where it's on Halloween. We want bands to come up on stage as people that have already passed away, like bands, you know, like dressed up like, you know, bands that have died. And Elvis or whatever, you know, and come and do a couple cover songs. And then we said, okay, we're in. And then we were like, we're going to do The Cure. And they were like, wait, but The Cure's still around. I'm like, yeah, but they're dead inside, so that's okay. and then they were like, oh, okay. But we went all out. Like, we totally did the whole thing, and we practiced The Cure songs probably more than we ever practiced our own songs. Because we wanted to really, because the Aquabats obviously is silly, and we're a little bit irreverent, but we, you know, being on the Holy podcast, we wanted to give a reverence to The Cure, and we wanted people to think like, wow, that sounded just like The Cure. Instead of the Aquabats coming up and doing like a ska version of Just Like Heaven, like, oh, that was, I mean, that just like, I just get cringy when I think about that. And I do know there are other bands that have covered Cure songs and made them like ska songs. And it's just like, to me, that is like, if we're talking religiously, that's blasphemy, man. You can't do that. Like, you just don't ruin the Cure songs with that. Like, pick it up, you know, Just Like Heaven. Like, oh, it's just like, it's so cringy to me. But so anyway, we wanted to be really faithful to The Cure and just nail it. And, you know, we did Just Like Heaven, and we did In Between Days. I think we did Love Song, and I think we only did 4 songs. And then that kind of like spiraled into something, because we felt magic. Like, we felt the magic of like, wow, we actually practiced. We sounded really good. And we sounded like our favorite band, The Cure. Let's do this again. So we looked for other times that we've done it a couple other times. One time we opened up for a band called Sweet and Tender Hooligans, which is basically a Smiths cover band.
Yeah. Okay.
The one I saw when we were doing a road trip out in LA, we saw him, I think, out there. And
yeah, Joe Escalante from the Vandals, he plays bass in it, and they call him the Mexican Morrissey, but Jose Maldonado is the singer, and you close your eyes and it's Morrissey singing. Like it just sounds exactly like them. And so we opened up for them as The Cure, but it was the Aquabats, you know, doing our tribute to The Cure. And then we did another time where we opened up for the Vandals, but, you know, and that was right at the end of 2019. And we were hoping like to book some, like a tour where we would go out and play as The Cure, you know, like, you know, when I was a kid, they had Beatlemania, where they had a band like dressed like the Beatles, and they, you know, all the eras of the Beatles. But we were like so excited to do like, let's go out and we'll do like the Cure Mania and like dress up like the early Cure, and then, you know, anyway, we were all excited about it, but COVID took it away.
I was a fan of the Aquabats, and I was a fan of the TV show and Yo Gabba Gabba and everything, especially with the kids. And when somebody tagged me in either a video or a shirt that you guys were doing for one of the shows, and I was just like, that kind of solidifies like that, like how much I like this. And then like I immediately, like as soon as Gavin started having me on the podcast, I made a list of people that I wanted to have on, and Mike McTiernan of the band Damnation AD was like the first one, and then you were right next to it because they had covered the whole Pornography album for one of their albums in 2017. So this is a big deal having you on here. So like all these stories are great. So when you were working with, I don't know how much production you had in Yo Gabba Gabba, was there ever a time that you tried to get Robert Smith or The Cure on the show as a musical act?
Well, yeah. So we're really close to the first record deal that the Aquabats did was with a company called Golden Voice, and Golden Voice is the big promotion company in LA that they promoted all the best shows. So whether it was like NWA and Eazy-E, or it was like The Exploited and GBH, or you know, or The Cure and Depeche Mode, like Golden Voice did all the best music shows. They didn't do the like Linda Ronstadt at the Hollywood Bowl, but they would do like when The Cure would come to town, they would do The Cure, et cetera, et cetera. So we tried a few things to try to get The Cure to be on the show. In fact, one of our business manager for a while, we had a business manager, and a guy that worked there was a guy named Gary Biddles, who was in the band Presence, which was a band that was it Lowell Tolhurst did, or Gary was in the band with Lowell, and Gary was he was a roadie for The Cure for many years. And Gary was, you know, he's from England. He was always like, hey, you want to go meet Robert and the team? And I was like, yes, please, you know. Whenever they'd come to town, we'd either be out on the road or doing something, but we never actually had Gary introduce us to them. But there were times like we got close. Like I worked for Golden Voice off and on in between being on tour. And so when The Cure did Coachella, I was there, and there was a funny story back in the day. We did try to have The Cure on, and if Yo Gabba Gabba ever comes back, I mean, mark my words now, that will be one of my first phone calls. It's like, we gotta,
perfect,
even if it's just Robert. But we there's a thing that K-Rock does every summer called the Weenie Roast, and it kind of defined what those radio shows, you know, it's kind of like, hey, we're doing this thing, and if your band comes and plays for free, we'll keep playing you on the radio. It was one of those, like, it's kind of like an extortion festival is what I used to consider those, like, and all the radio stations do them now, like the Christmas shows, but K-Rock kind of started that, like, we're going to do this summer concert and invite some of our biggest bands that we play on the radio to come play for free. And, you know, if they play for free, then we'll promise to push their new record and stuff like that. You know, it's a little weird, but like, anyway, for fans, for music fans, it's awesome. But you know, behind the curtain, you know that like some of the bands aren't that excited to be there because they're doing it because they're kind of forced into that. But one year, the Cure, played the Weenie Roast. They headlined it, and I think Radiohead played that year, and the Foo Fighters played that year. So it was like a big year. It could have been 95 or 96. Anyway, at the time we were kind of popular in the local Orange County scene, and it just so happened that the Weenie Roast was in Orange County. So we went down to the Weenie Roast. We didn't have tickets, but we wore our Aquabats costumes, and we just like walked backstage, and we're like, "What's up, guys? Yo, what's up?" And we totally got in, and we had a camera crew, and we were filming and doing stuff. And people, the security just thought we were supposed to be there because they're like, "Oh, it's the Aquabats. You know, they're a band, so they're supposed to be here." But we didn't have passes. We were just like, and we were cruising around like trying to interview people and talk to people. And the best thing about it was like at the very end of the night, you know, people stand on the sides of the stage to watch bands. The security was sweeping everybody off because the Cure is coming on, family and friends only. If you don't have this special pass, there was like a special Cure pass. If you didn't have the Cure pass, you got kicked off the side of the stage. And for some reason, the security was still like, "Aquabats, you're okay, but everyone else, out of here, out of here." So we're literally on the side of the stage watching the Cure, their whole set, with like 3 or 4 other people. And the security even went and got us chairs so we could sit down. We were like sitting right, like so super close to like poor old Thompson and his guitar. And it was epic. And you know, Robert Smith walked right past us, and he's a big dude. Like I was surprised how big he is, because you know he's kind of in the videos he's a little shy and demure, but then when he walks past you, he's like, and with his hair obviously
the hair bigger, adds a few inches.
He's a big guy. He's a big dude. Like he's tall, and it was awesome. Like we were so stoked. That was a highlight of probably definitely the early days. We got to watch the Cure. We didn't pay for a ticket. We just snuck in. So, and we
next to his mom or something, probably.
Yeah, totally. It was like friends that they had, like, and family and cousins and stuff. And they were all looking at us like, "What are these guys doing here?" And like, the only downside was we had to wear our costumes all day. But you know, hey, if you had to wear a superhero costume all day and stand next to the Cure for free, then why wouldn't you? Right?
Well worth it. Yeah.
We're like, we're security. Yeah.
I'm going to put you guys in touch with my friend Otis. So my friend Otis Bartholomew, he went by the moniker O back in the 80s. And he shot photos for Flipside magazine, for Thrasher magazine, Transworld magazine. He's an old skateboard photographer. Maybe you've heard of him. But back in the, have you heard of him?
No, I don't think so. Sorry.
So Otis Bartholomew, and I'll put you in touch with him, because he would be great to have on this. But he's actually he has some great stories about the Cure, because he was tour managing Dinosaur Jr. back in the day when they were on tour with the Cure, because they opened up for the Cure a couple times as well. And he has like awesome stories about exchanges about Just Like Heaven, and how they're kind of ribbing each other about it. And you know, Robert Smith said that was his favorite Dinosaur Jr. song was Just Like Heaven, and which is kind of a famous quote. But the crazy thing is, and I'll put O in touch with you guys to be on the show, because he has great Cure stories, and he has Cure stories from way back in the 70s, and then obviously in the 80s as well. But and he's like me, and he won't shut up either. But I'll have him tell you guys the story about how he challenged Robert Smith to ping pong, and Robert Smith. They had a ping pong table on tour with him, and they'd have ping pong battles. Like you would think, like Robert Smith just probably thinking about music all day, but he's actually
playing ping pong.
Otis said he's a really good ping pong player.
Wow.
Is it like Prince with Charlie Murphy on the Chappelle Show, where he's just dominating him, like just
totally like basketball,
trick shots and everything?
Like Prince. Yeah, totally. Yeah, Otis says he's really good. He's really good. So
nice. Sounds awesome. That'd be rad.
yeah, and he's a big music guy, and he has a lot of good Cure stories. And he knows Robert, like he has his phone number, and they talk to each other, and they became friends through ping pong of all things, which is kind of great.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Anyway,
yeah.
So your question just spiraled into like a 40-minute answer.
Oh no, it's fine.
That's amazing.
That's what this show is 90% of the time. So we have to backtrack on like everything that we've said.
Yeah.
So.
So you think you'll stick to doing some Cure tribute shows with the Aquabats?
I hope so. And you can see some of them online if you go on YouTube, and you can see some of it. And for the last one we even did like visuals, like we made videos for each song that we covered, and we played the videos behind us on the screen. And so we were like going all out. And but again, that's like, because the Aquabats is so kind of silly and stupid and wacky, when we go do the Cure thing, we want people to think this is like the Cure. And we do kind of like, we tend to like kind of stick to more of the poppier songs, but I was really trying to push the band to doing why is my mind blanking, but I'm coming to find you if it takes me all night.
Night Like This.
Night Like This.
Yeah.
Because that song is awesome, and it has a sax solo in it. It's like
it does.
Yeah.
It's the best sax solo probably of the 80s, in my opinion.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. and our sax player, Jimmy the Robot, he's a really good sax player. And I was like, man, you would nail this. It would sound so awesome. And that's the next one. I think we're going to try to do Push as well, and get
that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Get Night Like This on there. Primary, I love that song too. I'd love to do Primary. But we did Love Cats, and we had guys in cat suits come out with their horns, and they had like full body cat suits like the music video, and they're dancing around on stage. And then when it came to the part where the horns come in on Love Cats, they took their cat helmets off, and it was our horn section. So and it was like,
that's awesome.
A couple of our old horn players, and then the Real Big Fish horn players came and joined us. And then we had and then from Love Cats we went into Close to Me, but the version with the horns, because I think that version's way better anyway. Personally, that's my personally.
Totally.
I don't know if you're a fan of that one or not, but
yeah, I think it's got to have the works so much better.
The reason I really like that version is because it's so quiet, and he's like you could tell when they recorded it, he was like right up on the mic, like whispering, almost whisper singing. And if you're in a band with horns, you know that like trumpets can rival guitars as far as being like really loud and blowing your ears up, and to be so quiet and so like intimate. And then with those little like boop, 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 the synthesizers, and then have the horns come in and just be like, boop, boop, it's so gnarly to do that live too, because it's so loud and it just blows you up. And it's pretty cool though. It's pretty cool. So that's why we did that version, the horn version, and we did some of the other hits, but again, it's so much fun, and I hope we can do more. I just don't know what's going to happen with the new world that we live in.
It's hard to say in any direction. But is there one song you felt like really brought the house down that was always like got the best reaction as far as a Cure set?
Just like Heaven always does. I mean, that's always the song that people just freak out and start crying and laughing at. That's always good. But we did Jump in Someone Else's Train. We did obviously Boys Don't Cry, and we opened with the Forest, which is kind of weird, but because usually the Cure will close with the Forest, and so we opened with it, and because it's such a build, it builds.
Yeah.
And then with that I love that song too. I love The Forest. It's such a great song. But anyway, it just makes, just thinking about these songs just make me like, oh man, I wish we could go do it. It's so great. But
what was the first time you saw The Cure? You said that you saw them in, what was it, 92?
I think it was 92 at Dodger Stadium. Yeah, I think that's the maybe the time I saw them play. Which was way after I could have seen them play as a youngster, but I kind of went through this like hardcore punk phase where I put everything away. That's when I first started going to shows, was a lot. I started on my own. I was mostly punk stuff. And then I went and saw them with the Pixies. I think it was at Dodger Stadium, right?
Yeah, that was that tour. Yeah.
And or was it earlier with Dinosaur Jr.? It might have been, because they played with Dinosaur
Cranes,
Jr.
Did the Cranes play that too? Was that?
Cranes were Wish Tour, yeah. So Dinosaur might have been Disintegration.
I think it was Disintegration. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Because I know they played Lullaby, and that was a big song on the radio at the time.
Okay.
So I think that's the first time, and I've only seen them a handful of times, like maybe 3 or 4 times, but I haven't seen them a ton. But again, I haven't been a bigger fan than I am right now. So it's like all the times
I would do just about anything to see them now. Yeah.
What's that?
I would do just about anything to see them right now. So yeah.
So bad, yeah.
Yeah.
But
seeing them on stage like counts. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say seeing them on stage has to count for like 4 or 5 times. Like,
that one at the Weenie Roast was like, and I'd seen him before, and then I saw that time was really, really special because it was just right on stage. And you know, when you really like a band, though, you don't really want to be on stage with them because it doesn't sound as good on stage because you're listening to the monitors. You're not listening to the full sound out in the crowd. And so even though it was cool being on stage and being that close and like watching the intricacies of, you know, Mr. Thompson playing and seeing, you know, it doesn't sound as good as it did when you're out in the crowd and you're right there in the center by the center monitors listening to it. And it is what it is, you know. I mean, I've seen a lot of bands from the stage that it's rare that you're on stage and you're getting the full like great sound of a band if you're like on the side of the stage, you know. But if you're in the front, that's cool. But I'm trying to think other fun Cure tidbits and facts.
Do you feel like your regular fan base of Aquabats is pretty receptive of like when you do Cure shows too? Like, does it have much crossover, or do you notice it being a drastically different crowd when you do those shows?
Well, I think the thing with the Aquabats is, you know, since Yo Gabba Gabba and then the Aquabats Super Show, like our TV show, we have, you know, DRI had the crossover album, the famous like metal skanker guy.
Yeah.
But I think the Aquabats like legit have the craziest crossover audience. Like we have people that are our age and older that get all the references and they like The Cure and they like rock. And then we have like literally little kids, like really little kids and soccer moms and moms that bring their kids and they think it's going to be like Power Rangers on ice or something. Like they don't realize that we're a band and we play songs and people jump around and dance and bump around. And so I think part of our crowd loves the fact that we like The Cure, and then the other half of the crowd is like, what? I don't know what is that? You know, they don't know. And they just think the Aquabats are being being weird again.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that. I like to be able to introduce a younger generation to not just our music, but I feel like our music is so influenced by so many, you know, amazing giants like The Cure. And if we have an opportunity to introduce younger kids to The Cure, I think that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
What does it say about the band as a musician and somebody in a band? What's it say about The Cure to have such a broad fan base, because like we've covered stuff like on cover episodes where we have like, you know, Norwegian death metal covering a forest, and then we have country bands playing, just like Heaven, and it's such a wide variety of fans. And like even you go to a show, it's just a wide variety of people.
Or like
what
Adele,
do you say about
doing
that?
Love Song,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Again, it just speaks to the songwriting, and David Bowie had that. Robert Smith has that. Clearly, Lennon and McCartney had that. I think on a lesser known scale, but Charles Thompson or Frank Black, Black Francis from the Pixies. He is an amazing songwriter as well, and super influential, but just somehow, some way, didn't connect like everybody else did as well. And there's a lot of really great songwriters out there that write really great songs that connect with people. And Robert Smith, for what it's worth, it's interesting. Again, you put a different costume on somebody singing his song, and it like wildfire appeals to everybody, But it kind of speaks to a little bit to what the Aquabats have always kind of been about, and that's like what we're wearing. It's like our uniform, but there's like this uniform that comes into, it's like your brand. It's like the Cure brand. It's goth, it's dark, it's weird, but it's not really. It touches upon those things, but because of the hair and the eyeliner, it feels like, in a way, it's like it's captured, but the song speaks so well to such a big audience that that's where it becomes this mass appeal, because you hear the song and if you don't see Robert Smith first and you hear the song, you're in, But for some people, they see Robert Smith and they go like, oh my gosh, this is even better than I thought.
Yeah.
And then some people are turned off by it. It's like, I remember in the 80s, like Culture Club got a big bad rap with a lot of kids at school, and they were like, that guy wears makeup, and like he's a blank and blankety blank, and have you heard him sing? He's an amazing singer. Like they're great. Boy George is a great singer, and their songs were great. But again, like, because the brand was like not mainstream, it was like, and I think England was kind of on point with, as far as like doing alternative branding way back when, and America is a little slower to catch on to that. But anyway, I know that doesn't have that much to do with it, but clearly clearly the Cure songs, Robert's songs, they resonate so well with so many people, that I think that Cure would even be bigger, could even be bigger if people would just look past the like stigma, or they look past the like what they think it is, and just unplug your mind and just get in, listen to it, and it's amazing, right?
So many of those hits weren't even hits. We've always joked about that as far as like chart success and stuff. I mean, really like Love Song and Friday I'm in Love, but I mean, like even like Just Like Heaven, I think it was like 50 something on the Billboard, if it even made it that high. Even it wasn't really a hit till way later. I think it's those kind of factors where you wonder if it had just been some super boring looking dude up there singing, it could have been a bigger pop hit,
right. Or if it was like, in the 80s, like some Hulk Hogan guy waving an American flag, but that's why it endures, because the Cure, they never really sold out to their brand. They never sold out to what they were doing. And I feel like, even we, as the Aquabats, we never wanted to sell out. We knew that the superhero outfits were like, they're like a hindrance, like almost like warding off people. It's like a filter. It filters people, because people that are like, that's stupid, I think those guys are dumb, look at them, they don't come to our shows, and that's great.
Right.
Right. But the people that are like, those guys are awesome, that's so funny, I want to jump around and be like that, then they show up, and it creates this awesome community, and from that community that grows. I think the Cure, obviously, they had that in spades, you know, they with Susie and the Banshees, and you know, that post-punk era, you know, Gang of Four and all those bands, like kind of creating this little scene that people would look at them and be like, I don't want anything to do with that, and they'd be like, great, stay away. And they created this, like, this, you know, nucleus that grew from there. And the way that Robert Smith looks is almost like an affront to people that aren't creative, you know. It's like people that are like not creative or just like, you look dumb, you know. he like, it's like he's stoked that they're like, they don't want anything to do with him. And I think that's pretty genius, because what he's done now, and I think, you know, there's a lot of bands that had tried to do that more in the 80s, and that's not to appeal to the mainstream, but to appeal to a creative minds, appeal to kids that do feel on the outside, but need a team. They need someone to, like, that's being an individual. And that's what I did like a lot about, even in the 80s. It felt like, whether it was in skateboarding or music, it really, like, amplified the individuality of the bands. That the 60s had started, and then it kind of jumped over the 70s, where everyone became corduroy and, like, looked the same. But then it really exploded in the 80s, where every band had to have their own individual, like, feeling, not just and not just musically, but also the look, you know. And that's obviously the, you know, the gene pool that I grew up in, seeing all these different bands. And then when I started a band, like, I didn't want to look or sound like any other band. I wanted to be totally different, you know. And obviously you can't be totally different musically, but you know what I mean? Like, that's why obviously so much respect for the Cure for doing something that they're writing these amazing, beautiful songs, and they're almost repelling a certain group of people away on purpose, in a way, you know?
And when you really dig in, I mean, there's been tons of examples of him just, like, totally 180ing the whole sound, even if they start to get to, you know, like, even with Disintegration coming right after Kiss Me, they're starting to break through the mainstream a little too much even. So he's, like, always kind of throwing the monkey wrench in there, even with their sound. I'm like, okay, now we're going dark, you know. Or, you know, like Love Cats, so everyone's like, what? They were just doing pornography like a year earlier, you know.
Totally. Or think about, like, well, Kiss Me, Why Can't I Be You, into Disintegration. Like, totally different. And even, like, the color palettes on the album covers are so totally different. You know,
we did an episode about that.
And that, I think that's amazing. And for us being in the Aquabats, for me being the Aquabats, that's something that obviously I respect, and we try to do to a certain extent, is to try to be different every time, and mix it up, and not just be like, oh, the Aquabats, you can put them in a box. They're a ska band and they're like this. But no, if you take a good listen, like, our records are all pretty different. Like, they don't all sound the same. And, you know, a lot of that comes from influences from bands like The Cure that they mix it up so well, you know. But clearly Robert Smith is, like, way better songwriter than me. So, you know, I'll stick to my kids' jingles for Yo Gabba Gabba songs. I think I'm better at that than I am at writing real songs. But
hey, it's real music. We got a lot of good dancing out of those songs on Yo Gabba Gabba and the Aquabats. So.
Party in my tummy, you can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I gave one of your episodes a listen of your podcast, World's Best Dad, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I listened to the episode, the last one with the tattoo artist. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Tim Hendricks.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So Gavin's dad, I'm a dad, you're a dad. what have you brought the Cure into your family at all, and how have they responded to it at all?
For sure. And you know, it's funny because my younger kids, and I think that's just, again, like a testimony to the Cure, that you, until you have feelings, like deeper feelings, the Cure isn't going to resonate with you as well unless you're like Love Cat. So that's a funny song.
Yeah,
but you're not going to really catch the nuance of just like Heaven or In Between Days or some of those melancholy songs, or even the deeper, darker ones. You're not going to catch them unless you have some feelings, you have some heartbreak, you have some disappointment. So my two older kids, my daughter's 21 and my oldest son is 19. They love the Cure, and I brought them into the Cure, and I'll play songs on the acoustic guitar, and my daughter and I will harmonize, like just like Heaven or In Between Days. We'll play songs, you know, together, and it's fun, and I think they dig it. They really like the Cure because again, it feels like there's a maturity to a lot of the Cure songs that they really don't turn on until you have gone through some of that heartache and heartbreak, loneliness, and a lot of that stuff doesn't start happening until junior high school. So and nowadays I feel like it's pushing even further. Like there's kind of like with phones and stuff, it feels like there's a bit, kids are getting all kinds of knowledge from all, you know, information, but they're not actually going out and like connecting with people, which I've noticed with my kids. Like when I was in 6th and 7th grade, you know, I was involved in doing things I probably should have never been doing. I was around things, and there just wasn't those kind of like distractions with video games and phones and like this kind of society's pressure to just keep you in one place. I mean, you had to go out and find things. We had to find records. We had to find record stores, and you had to find people like you. You know, where's someone that's like me? You had to find them. And nowadays, it's real easy. You can just text your friends or whatever. So I feel like kids are a little bit delayed in their maturity. It feels like socially, at least with my kids and their friends. You know, they'll maybe get together and come over and sing show tunes or something, and these are like seniors in high schools. You know, it's like, what? This is weird. You know. But on the other hand, I'm glad they're not like out doing drugs or like getting in gang wars or like, you know, entertaining themselves by, you know, making weapons and throwing them at people, or, you know, I'm glad. I'm glad that's not happening.
Even on the Cure level, it's good that they're not totally getting disintegration, you know, at the age of, if you understand it at like age 12, that's probably not a good thing, you know?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
This record hit so hard.
Disintegration came out when I was like a senior or a junior in high school. And it was like right at that time, like, you know, I was dating a girl like pretty solidly at that time. And so, but I had one of my best friends, the creator of Yo Gabba Gabba, the co-creator, my best friend Scott. He had broken up with a girl, and I was all about disintegration. Like he was, he was all about that record. I remember we played it a lot in his car, and he would get bummed out. You know?
I think every breakup I've had, it was there. You know, it's like, here we go.
My roommate, when I started the Aquabats, Crash, he's the bass player, you know, Chad Crash.
Yeah.
He had another roommate before me, and he said he would just come turn on the TV with the blue screen, you know, and he would just drink NyQuil and listen to Disintegration and watch the blue screen, the static. And he would come in and check on him to see if his heart was still beating. So that's a funny story.
That's great. Oh man.
I'm a little too deep in. Same deep water as you.
Yeah. Man. Well, the Cure is medicine, so it is.
Whatever.
Literally and figuratively.
Totally.
I sat on my hammock in the middle of a rainstorm and listened to Disintegration, like a couple of 2-3 years ago. Like my wife and I are having an argument, and I just went outside, put my earbuds in, put my hoodie on, just sat in the rain for like a half hour. And it's like, oh.
And it's funny because bummed. It kind of made you feel better, right? I mean,
it's
so
therapeutic.
It's therapeutic because it is so dark. It kind of brings you up out of it. And so it's like, well, that sounded cool, so I don't feel that bad anymore. Right?
Yeah. Then you put on Why Can't I Be You, and everything's good.
That just drags me down.
My son we love Lullaby, and obviously that's a great song too. And we watched the video together, my oldest son, and he was like, "This is amazing, Dad." So it was 2019. There's people online that make awesome action figures. They're like one-off, custom figures.
Yeah.
And some guy he made Robert Smith action figures, but they were the Lullaby figures. I don't know if you've seen those.
Whoa, no,
but
no.
I got my son one for Christmas, and he was so stoked. It was like they're like
that's
full
awesome.
on teased out hair, and they're like pajamas, and it's. So I'll send you a picture of it so you guys can.
Oh, absolutely, that's rad. Yeah, that's awesome.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty cool. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen those. Have you, Chaz?
Yeah. No, I haven't. I'm still trying to track down the Garbage Pail Kid cards they did for the Cure a couple of years ago. Yeah. Cool. So
Nice.
There's also that the movie Cobra from the 80s with Sylvester Stallone. They Photoshop Robert Smith's face on that. That's funny too.
Very good. Awesome.
He's the cure,
Yeah.
Crime is the disease, and this is the cure. Yeah. Anyway, funny joke.
Gavin, are you? How are you with questions? I know that you had some other questions that you had to ask.
I just couldn't let you go without asking you a quick version of your experiences on Gleaming the Cube. I found out.
Yes,
it was one of my childhood favorite movies, and I just wondered if you had any just all around good experience, or what was that?
Yeah. So obviously I was real into skateboarding in the 80s, and I was super into all the Bones Brigade videos, and my agent said, "Hey, I heard I know you can skateboard. There's this movie they're making, and would you like to go try out for it?" And I'm like, "Of course." And when I went onto the audition, that my agent told me to take your skateboard with you, and I was kind of like thinking like, that's kind of what like poser actors do, is like they take a prop with them, or they they're trying out for a lumberjack, so they dress like a lumberjack in the part, And so I left my skateboard in the car, and then when I went in on the audition, I got in the room, and Stacy Peralta was in there, and
oh shit,
the guy behind the Bones Brigade, and I was like, "Whoa, Stacy!" And he's like, "Oh, you know who I am?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" And we got talking, and I read for the part, and he said right afterwards, he is Christian. You're really cool, man. That's awesome. And you've been skating. And he was like, "What do you like to skate?" I was like, "I like pools." Anyway, long story short, he told me right on the spot that I was too young for the part. He's like, "We're looking for someone a little older." And I was like, "Stacy, no, man. Like, in all the skate crews, there's always a little grommet. There's always the young guy. There's always there's always the kid." And he started laughing. He's like, "You're right. That's true." And I'm like, "I'm perfect for that. I'm perfect." And he started laughing. He's like, "Okay, well, I'll think about it." And so then, I went home, and I think he called, my agent called a couple hours later and said, "You got the part." And I was so stoked. I mean, that was the dream come true right there, because that's all I wanted to do was skateboard. I didn't want to go to school, obviously, but I was so into skating at the time. And it was Tony Hawk and Tommy Guerrero, and
the whole crew there.
And Stacy was the second unit director, and he would bring Lance Mountain in, and Nadas came down all the time because he was friends with Tommy Guerrero. And Max, the other actor who could skate on the show, was Max Perlich. He was really good friends with Christian Hosoi, so Christian Hosoi was always on set, and it was crazy. It was really fun. But I that ruined my career in school because I had bad grades, and if you have bad grades, you can't get a work permit.
Oh.
So I went and took this special test, like a proficiency test, that basically exempted me from having grades, which also, in essence, made it so I didn't have to go to school, so that I could work. So that because the special circumstance, you pay the right people and you take the right test.
Yeah.
That was super easy, and it's like. Anyway, I dropped out of school for like 8 weeks. And did Gleaming the Cube down in Orange County, and it definitely ruined my school career because I didn't want to go back to school after that because just hanging out with all those guys and afterwards, Tony Hawk was like, come down and stay at my house, and just got to be friends with those guys, and it was really cool because being with those guys, I was nowhere near their level skate wise, but to them, that wasn't important. It was just being a cool person and just being nice and being a good person. That didn't, as long as you liked skating, it didn't matter if you could ollie as high as them or do a McTwist. It didn't really matter. Just be cool. And so it was fun. We had a lot of fun together, and I learned a lot about, being a young independent person too in business, because those guys were all like young guys, but they were thinking about business even at a young age because they kind of had to, so
and
that was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Everything, like I'm still wearing the McGill shirt,
Oh yeah, I know, I noticed that.
But I mean, you designed some decks, did I see, like for Jason Lee?
Yeah, so after that, like I lived in Orange County, and through Gleaming the Cube, got to be friends with a lot of skaters, obviously, and met Mark Gonzalez and Neil Blender, who lived pretty close to where I lived. And then right around that time, Jason Lee was moving in with Mark Gonzalez, and Mark was still on Vision at the time. And Mark was amazing. We would just go down to his house at like 10 o'clock at night, and we'd stay up all night and skate, and then go to sleep at like 10 o'clock in the morning and sleep all day and skate. Awesome fun times. So when Jason and Mark started Blind Skateboards, Jason asked if I would do some graphics for him, and I ended up doing a couple boards for Jason. I ended up doing a board for Steve Barra, which was I did a painting and for Tony Hawk, and I gave it to Tony Hawk. Actually sold it to him, but which I feel bad about. He was like, I like that painting. And I was like, I'll sell it to you. But he looked at me like, dude, really? I'm Tony Hawk. Just give me the book. Give me the painting. So I should have. I always feel guilty about that. But anyway, that became a Steve Barra board. And I've done some other graphics too. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And hanging out with Jason and Mark, and, introducing Jason to some acting agents and friends. And then again, of course, his career took off, and it's been fun to see all that stuff. It's weird. As weird as it is,
Awesome. Yeah.
We saw Tony Hawk do that Friday I'm in Love cover.
Yeah, see,
That was a big surprise.
On Masked Singer, yeah. I'm gonna have to razz him about that a little bit, because he also did the English accent with it too, like Friday on. He was going for it. That's awesome. I'm glad he picked that song. But Tony was always a big Cure fan too. It's funny, like the stuff that Tony liked and the stuff that he didn't like. Like I liked Echo and the Bunnymen a lot too. Like obviously I was a big Echo and the Bunnymen fan, and they did the cover of the Doors song, so I was like into the Doors as well. And Tony Hawk used to wreck on me for liking the Doors. And I'm like, why? He's like, I can't stand the Doors. I'm like, why? He's like, they have an organ. It's like going to church listening to their music. Like, I guess you're right. And like, so every time I hear the Doors now, I hear the doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, I think of Tony Hawk wrecking on me for liking the Doors. So that's fun.
Come on, you make it look like some, so it's good.
Well, it's been great talking to you guys.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I was going to ask you one more thing, and I can't remember it. I guess it wasn't that important. I don't know. Gavin, you have anything else?
No, I'm good, man. I just really, really appreciate you hanging out and talking with us tonight, and getting to hear all your stories. It's you're an amazing man. So thank you.
Well, again, like I'll introduce you to Otis, and hopefully he'll come on. He has a lot of really cool like rock stories and Cure stories, and he could answer a lot of like kind of deep cuts questions and stuff about that, because he knows those guys really well. So unfortunately I haven't met them yet, but we're, you know, again, if we can get Yo Gabba Gabba back, we'll mark my words, we'll get the Cure on there so one way or another.
It seems like a match made in heaven, so I don't know.
Well, just like
once the pandemic's over and you guys are on tour again, hopefully you'll come around through Philadelphia. We can come out, or I can come out, because Gavin's in one of the Carolinas. So we'll come out and say hi, hopefully meet up.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we can take the Aquabats tribute to the Cure out on the road here one of these days.
I would absolutely love that. Gavin and I might have to get together and meet up in like DC or something.
Yeah, even if we did like, you know, Boston, New York, and Philly, like just did like 3 shows, or just like an East Coast run of that, it would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun. So
we'd be part of the traveling caravan.
Yes,
like following you down. Yeah.
Well, you guys can. We'll have you guys be roadies. So come help us with the gear. You know,
I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's okay. Neither do we.
Well, thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. This has been an honor.
And thanks, guys. And you guys make cool stuff too. So I'm gonna hit you up about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I was gonna. This you can take this out, but send me your address, and I have extra shirts. I'd love to send you. So awesome. It's not a big deal. So.
Well, good. Great to meet you guys.
Great to meet you too.
And we'll talk.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Good night.